Welcome. I'm Dan the Man Muñoz, host of Movie Menu Interviews, where we interview filmmakers to discuss the films from idea to completion. On today's episode, we'll be interviewing filmmaker Hassan Said, writer and director of the film This Is Your Song.
Hello, hello.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Hassan.
Of course, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, Dan. I mean, I'm excited. It's been brewing for a long time.
It has.
Yeah.
So I just want to quickly say that the reason why we do the show is to discuss the process for future filmmakers who might be listening, to talk about with our current filmmaker what worked on their film, what would they change for the next project, plus any advice, Hassan, you could give to our listeners. But let us get a little bit to know you. I'll get to know you a little bit. Tell us about yourself, like where did you grow up and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I was born in Alexandria, Egypt. I grew up in Egypt till I was about 16, and I moved to New York after that, finished high school, and decided to apply to college because I wanted to come out to California. Applied to some schools in LA and San Francisco, and I got into school eventually in San Francisco, and moved to San Francisco, went to school, made some films, some art shows for about 6 years, and then now I'm in LA.
Well, welcome to LA. Tell us about, though, you first going to New York, or living in Egypt. Is filmmaking something that you wanted to do from a young age, or is it something that you realized later on in life? How did that whole process of you wanting to be a filmmaker came into to be?
I mean, filmmaking in Egypt is a very, very known old craft and has a huge following. It's the biggest film industry in the Middle East. And my grandparents and parents were very big fans of watching like old Egyptian films or American films, like epic films like Spartacus or Quo Vadis, or like all these like big David Lean type films. And my grandpa would always take me to the movies on Sunday, and I started really loving film. Like I always wanted to shoot stuff and write stories, but I was more into the idea of acting and pretending to be different characters, but essentially create stories based on those characters. So filmmaking was something that I was very into at a very, very young age. Ever since I was like, I could say 4 or 5 years old. It's a craft that always drew me, and I'd like to give most of my attention to films when my friends were like paying more attention to soccer growing up or other stuff. So it was, yeah.
Where was it? What was like the particular film that got you inspired to get into it? I know you mentioned like Ten Commandments and the classic films. Was there a specific film itself that you were like, hey, that's something I want to do in my life?
I think there was definitely a number of films. I think Spartacus was definitely one of them, and Lawrence of Arabia. Because I would watch what my parents would watch, and then I started getting into more of the horror thriller genre by myself. But definitely one of the films that had an impact was Tim Burton's Batman in 1989.
89, yeah, nice.
And I saw it with my dad at the theater, and I was just like so fascinated by how dark it looked and the music and everything and the Joker character, and I was like, this is something else. Like I've never seen a film like it at that time, and I was 4 years old. I was just so drawn to how fantastical films can be, and I started getting drawn to more like horror, fantasy, thriller type genre films. Yeah.
Nice. So, what horror films also inspired you? Like, what horror films are you go to watch at least?
Well, when I was a kid, I was obsessed with The Exorcist and Child's Play.
Oh, good choices.
Yeah, I was very, very much in love with those two films, and I would watch them over and over. Definitely Halloween. I was also very drawn to old black and white films. Like I saw Lolita at a very young age. I saw Dr. Strangelove, The Seventh Seal. European films were very accessible in Egypt. More so, American films were more accessible in the commercial, like mainstream, like just coming out type films. So it was really interesting to also watch, Bergman films as a young kid, or Tarkovsky films as a young kid, because you just see them
so many
satellites.
Influences that you were able to be exposed to. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely some of the filmmakers that were a huge influence. I think Stanley Kubrick from a young age, and I think the first film that I saw was The Shining. I was about 8 or 9 years old, and me and my parents were traveling, and we went to this hotel in Cairo, and I was turning on the TV while they were doing their thing, like, unloading luggages and all that. And I remember the act scene in The Shining was playing on TV, and I just kept watching it and watching it. And I was like, holy shit, this is scary. Like, it kept haunting me. And then I was like, yeah, I have to see more stuff like that. And I saw, like, definitely David Lynch films. I was a huge fan of David Lynch at a young age, and Lars von Trier. So a lot of films that are not typical for somebody my age or even early teens, but those are the type of films I was really drawn to. Plus, like, some also old Egyptian films, like more folklore, fairy tale type stories. Yeah, like a lot of great stuff that was just it felt endless. Like, you could do so many things in so many ways and shoot it, and music and everything. Just so accumulated.
An eclectic category of movies to consume.
Yeah.
So, which goes to my next question. Where did you study filmmaking?
I started in New York. I was upstate at Dutchess Community College. I was studying communication and media arts, and a group of people at that program, we started like a film screening program, and we started making films together. And that's where it all started in New York back in 2003, 2004. And then I wanted to get my bachelor's, and so I decided to go to the Academy of Art in San Francisco, and that's where, like, I was 110% out of my liberal arts and just doing nothing but filmmaking classes and editing and shooting and lighting, and yeah.
Now, how was that to just be focusing on filmmaking as you were studying only? How was that experience?
I think the interesting thing about the school was it was not a very theory heavy school. The theory stuff was very easy for us to read or watch on documentaries or listen to lectures. But what was really good about the school was, like, at a very beginning stage of your education, you're just going out to shoot. So for like the next 3 years or so, we were just shooting nonstop every semester, different projects with different people. So that was the fun part about it.
Yeah, you're getting experience as well, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, which also lent us the freedom to, like, when shoots came into town, like I was working on Milk. I was a set production assistant on Gus Van Sant's film Milk, and I was like skipping school for about 3.5 weeks and just telling my teachers that I'm working on set and just the experience, and they were all very supportive of it.
That's awesome. And Milk is such a good movie.
Yeah, amazing movie. It was so much fun to work on set. It was like so many extras and wardrobe, costumes. Harry Savita shot it, who's an amazing cinematographer. And the performances all around were just very powerful. And it was cool to shoot outside in San Francisco and make it look like, the 70s and whatnot. It was pretty dope.
And was writing and directing something you always wanted to do behind the scenes with filmmaking, or was there another focus
I think directing was always my calling. Writing just happened to come along because at a very early stage I realized that you have to write your own material to get your material done. You're not gonna just go off and buy a script and try to mold it your way. I felt that it was very important for me to learn screenwriting at the very early stages of my academia in San Francisco. And I felt it was inseparable to directing, because how can you direct when you can't really write and create? And I feel like it's in this day and age especially, it's very conjoined versus like 40, 50 years ago in the film industry. So directing was definitely and is the main forefront, and writing just came in along because I just happened to learn it and learn how to write screenplays. And
tell your stories that you wanted to tell.
Exactly.
Speaking of which, tell me about like the very first project you ever worked on in school, like a short film. Was it in New York? Was it San Francisco? And what was that project about?
Okay. I did a first short in New York, which it was very, it's not something I'm really a big fan of. It it was sloppy, and the cast, like, it was primarily my friends. It wasn't like professional actors.
Right,
but what I was proud of with this film is, like, I had a dance number in there, so I got a dance trainer to teach him how to dance a certain ballet ballroom kind of mix, and both my friends pulled it off really well. But it was a story about, which is very similar in the vein of This Is Your Song, in a way, where, like, two people, a person remembers losing someone that they were in love with, and how they reflect that on their life, and how gradually, as time goes by, they're having a hard time letting it go, essentially.
So would you say that you learned that aspect of getting, like, other people to collaborate with, that helped you with learning how to direct and do what now in the future, where you are now?
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think it was a good learning experience to do this first short film. I mean, it got into two film festivals, and I was really happy with that. I was surprised, and it had really good reception. We screened it at the school with everybody, the faculty, and everybody really reacted well to it. But it definitely is a sloppy film, in my opinion, based on what I do now, 15 years later, or 16 years later. It definitely taught me a lot about working with editing and cinematography and the continuity aspects of cinematography and pacing a scene, because there's a lot of mistakes in those departments in making this film. But still, like, the story holds together. But again, when you're working with non-actors and friends, it still misses a lot of the magic of it and comes to performance. But they did a good job, even though they've never done this before.
Do you want to talk about real quickly what that film was about? The one that you consider sloppy?
Well, that's what I was mentioning as far as, like, similar to This Is Your Song. It was about a guy who lost somebody that he loved and him reflecting on it for the rest of his life. That was pretty much what the film was about, until he got older and not being able to let it go. I think because it was an emotional and challenging time growing up in your late teens, early 20s, and understanding relationships and connections with people. And it was a way to reflect on that. And yeah, we got it into the New York International Film and Video Festival, and it screened in LA at the Fairfax Theater, which no longer is there anymore. But yeah, it was a good experience for sure.
Nice, which is great because it sounded like a lot of the films that you worked on, especially that one that was personal to you, is what helped you make your feature film, which is This Is Your Song. Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started and talk about your film. Can you give a synopsis about what the This Is Your Song is about?
Yes. So This Is Your Song is a feature film. We're currently in post-production, but it's a film about a young married couple in San Francisco, a beatnik-inspired writer, and a theater actress who, on the night of their wedding anniversary, contemplate their relationship and their life in the city as it's shifting in its landscape. So the whole story takes place over the course of one night, essentially, in real time. Yeah, and it definitely has multitude of layers of themes that are related to relationships, love, infidelity, trust, dishonesty, honesty, push and pull. Yeah.
Let's play a clip from the trailer.
7 years. Can you believe it?
Why do you still love me?
Because you tug at me. Because you always push me to be a better person. You are my muse. You open yourself up, you crack yourself wide open, and you allow me in. Why do you love me?
Because if you're mine, now you opened up a whole new world to me. And I love it. Even when I act a little crazy, you just smile at me.
It's all I see in the mirrors of my dreams.
Sometimes I don't think about you for hours, and I feel so relieved.
Will you love me in December as you do in May?
Always.
All right, that was the trailer for This Is Your Song. What made you want to get? Well, where did you get the idea for making the film itself? And did you always imagine it to be shot at one take, basically, throughout one night?
Yeah, the idea from the film came back in 2017. I went through a divorce. I was married, and it was a very challenging time for me being alone after I ended up leaving my place, and reflecting on the relationship and understanding why, how it is possible to love someone, yet that doesn't necessarily mean you should be with that person. So I was, for the last year of my marriage, I was trying really hard to make a feature film. I've written like 4 to 5 different feature scripts, and every possible lead and talking and conversating and pitching and competition and grants and all that jazz. I've went through the windmill of it, and nothing clicked. It was the timing. I mean, it was a tough timing in my life, in my relationship, and also with work. And after the divorce, I decided to write a story about 2 young people who are struggling to thrive in the modern American landscape, and what kind of conflict that arises with that in our current time. So I reached out to my friends Peggy and Lourdes. Peggy is the cinematographer of the film, and Lourdes is the co-writer of the screenplay. And they knew me, like, we're really close, and they knew of my marriage. And I talked to Lourdes about like wanting to make a film and wanting to set it like a play within a play and just shoot it in one single take, the whole thing. And we started talking about characters, ideas. We wanted definitely to do it in San Francisco, because it's a very beautiful landscape of a city, and it's very underused. And given also the logistics of the one shot element, having it in LA would be a lot more like difficult. But there's an amazing base of people in the film community up there that I've worked with or I've known for years, and a lot of people that came on got extremely excited about the idea and shooting a feature in San Francisco and doing it in that fashion. So it was definitely like a big task after we finished the screenplay, because it's like, shit, like this is going to be a very, very challenging casting process, because you want people to hold their breath for like 90 something minutes or whatever, and try to get it going that way. And of course, like there were more challenges that came with the shoot with the long take and having to work logistics out. But yeah, I mean, as soon as the script was done and we read it, we were like, okay, this is going to be definitely very hard to do.
It sounds like it would have been hard to do, because usually one takes are hard to do, period. But
yeah,
but they're done. They are so beautiful. So I know, was it when you were writing the script and doing it, was it written as it would be as one take?
Yes.
Is that how you and Lourdes wrote it to be?
Yes.
And also, that's great that San Francisco seemed like it's also another character within the film.
Yes.
It's like a love story, but also like a story within the city, right?
Yes.
And how was it? And you're right. That would not be able to be done in LA. It would be too difficult, too hard.
Exactly.
And how did you find your cast? Also, by the way, I saw the behind the scenes video. I gotta say, your cinematographer is amazing.
She's incredible, Peggy. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. She has so much spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely one of the most probably the most challenging things she's ever done, and I think for all of us. And she came through like amazingly, pulling this off.
As the listeners if they watch the video, they can see, and they saw the trailer, they can see how beautiful the movie looks. It really looks beautiful.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's
talk about your cast. Like, how did you find your lead actors that were willing to go on this journey with you?
It was casting was definitely one of the hardest parts of this film. We held auditions in San Francisco and in LA. I had a casting director, Jacob Hyman, and he was really awesome and very engaged in getting the right people onto the film. And we did auditions in LA and San Francisco, mostly San Francisco. We did like 2 rounds in San Francisco, 1 in LA, and we had like about over 1,400 submissions. But we ended up auditioning closer to 300 to 400 people in San Francisco.
That's still a lot of people.
yeah. And we did a very unique audition process of we would have people come in for a window of 3 hours and they read with different people, different scenes, and then we switch people and see how chemistries bond with different people. And we did it. We started in June and we didn't really decide on the cast, especially the 2 leads, until like October, November, because we did callbacks. We did read-throughs, and the 2 people that we ended up casting, Brianna Walsh, she was working at the theater where we were holding the audition, the Shelton Theater in San Francisco. And Matt Shelton is an amazing guy who really leads an amazing theater community in San Francisco. And his mother, Jean Shelton, is a living legend. And he really helped us have an audition space, a rehearsal space in the theater. And Brianna was working there, and Matt introduced me to her, and he was like, yeah, maybe you should audition for the film. And she came in to audition for the role of Penny, which is a supporting role, and she knocked it out of the water. And I really had in my mind that I was going to cast her for Penny at first. And finding Jules was very hard because I had a couple other actors in mind, but certain scheduling and logistical conflicts didn't make it work or pan out. And then one night I was in San Francisco and Brianna had a play, Baby Doll, Tennessee Williams' Baby Doll, and I got an invite to go check it out because I already talked to her for the role of Penny, and then I saw her in Baby Doll, and then I was talking to my co-producer Masha and Peggy, and I was like, no, she should play the lead. Like, she handled the whole play gracefully. She was amazing. The performance was on point. She didn't break character. I think she would be amazing in this film as the lead. Even though, like, I never thought of Brianna, given that she has a very theater caricature persona that she does really well. I never imagined Jules, the main character, to be that way, but I think she brought in a cool flavor to it for that role. And our other lead, James Jordan, Jordan came in to audition the first round. He came in on the callbacks the second round. He was very engaging. He was very serious about his craft. Very talented guy. His reel had like a bunch of different roles, but what I loved about Jordan was his engagement in filmmaking and his understanding of directors and films and how he loves the craft. And he seemed to me that he was somebody who would just give everything to make a really good performance come to life. And we talked. I remember calling Jordan one night. I was in San Francisco on Polk Street and Hayes. And it was raining outside and he was on set. I was like, hey man, I really would love for you to play the part, but just so you know, I'm going to need you to be free for 6 weeks for rehearsals. You're going to have to watch X amount of films. You're going to have to grow a beard, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Jordan was just up for it, like all game, no questions. And I knew like he was definitely the right person to cast for that part after we talked.
That's amazing. It's great to work with actors who are so willing to just jump in the project.
Incredible.
And be the mode that you will sculpt them to be.
Yeah, incredible. Even our supporting cast was amazing. We had Joanna Kay. She played Penny, the role that Brianna was going to play. And Joanna also auditioned for Jules. Joanna has such an amazing wit to her. She's a really good comedian. She's so talented, really funny. Facial expressions are just so alive. We had Edward Hightower. He played Daniel in the film. Very funny guy, great sense of humor. He could play an older worldly character very naturally. We had Jeffrey Moore, who played Zeus. We had Luke, who played he played Carrie. I mean, we had some really cool, also awesome supporting cast on the film that helped it come to life for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, we talked briefly about your cinematographer and your co-writer, your co-producer. Did you happen to just know them from school before, or did you work with them on other projects? How did you end up finding the crew for this film?
So I was coming in with the intention when I was making the film that I wanted my crew to be primarily women. I really wanted to have mostly women as head departments for the film because I felt it was a very sensitive subject. And plus, women have better work ethic in general, in my opinion. They're serious. They work hard. There's no bullshit.
They get shit done.
They get shit done. I mean, women are just much more organized. They're better. They're better communicators. They're awesome. And Peggy and we went to school together, and so did Masha. Lourdes is Peggy's partner, and me and Peggy worked on a number of projects together. Like I gaffed for her before, I AC'd for her before. She shot a couple of music videos for me. And I know how she has like this romantic sensibility and this romantic attachment to San Francisco. And I thought she'd be perfect for shooting the film, even though she was the last person who thought she was the best person to shoot this film. And Masha, my co-producer, we went to film school together. We had mutual friends, and we've been following each other on social media for many years. And I thought about reaching out to her to talk to her because we had a mutual friend, Dimitri, who just reminded me like, hey, maybe you should reach out to Masha. And then I talked to Masha about it, and that's how the project started. It was Masha, Peggy, and Lourdes, and those three women were with me from the get-go to help this come to life one way or another.
Sounds like you have an amazing team.
Yeah, they're incredible. They're incredible. They're incredible ladies, and they work hard, and they really put a lot of emotion into the work, and they were very graceful about it. It's pretty awesome.
Also, you had mentioned that you had the idea back in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it take you to write it? How long did it take you to film it? You talked about 6 weeks of rehearsal. Mm-hmm. How long was principal photography? And then how long has it been taking you to edit the film? Just want to know the timeline of everything.
Okay, so
realistically, people know like making the film, how long making the film actually takes.
It takes a lot of patience and a lot of time. So in November 2017, we just began to write beat sheets and character bios and just very rough outlines. We started writing the script in January of 2018, end of January. And the first draft we wrote, me and Lourdes, in 2.5 weeks. It was a lot longer. We had to trim it down, and everything that we were writing consciously, we had to keep in mind that we were playing everything in real time. So things had to be interesting always. You couldn't cut away to a close up. You're just like, okay, how do I keep this going with a lot of dialogue?
Talk about that, I guess, because people always use, cutscenes and whatnot, moving to one scene to the next. How was it writing like a one continuous? Even in theater, there's like the 2-act structure of that. So basically, this is like a 1-act play, just written throughout the whole sequence of the film. How was writing that?
Well, we ended up shooting like in a 2-act structure, but it was very challenging because geography was a big part of it. Where you started, because we started the film on a stage, in a theater. We then go through a dressing room, we go through a hallway, we go through a bar, we go through the street, we go through the apartment, we go through the kitchen, we go to the living room, the bathroom, the bedroom, the hallway. Like, you just had to really time everything to the T. Now, when we did our rehearsals with the first draft of the script, the film expanded to a 2-hour and 40-minute film, which was crazy because we wrote it in 97 pages, but the pacing of it required it to be slower in certain moments, so extended. So we had to rewrite like multiple drafts, about 5 to 6 drafts before the shooting script to time it to the T in rehearsals so that we nail it and be able to record on a certain size cards on the area, like I said, because they only made 518 gigs at the time, I think, and we were shooting at 3.2K, and we had to do like the math to everything to time it exactly from beginning, middle, and end. It was crazy. So writing it was 2.5 weeks, the first draft, and we kept writing it as we did auditions. Then rehearsals were 6 weeks. We started rehearsals a week before Christmas of 2018, and we started shooting on New Year's. The first day was New Year's. We shot the fireworks of the Embarcadero in San Francisco. We captured it live, and it was part of a montage sequence in the film outside of the long take that shows their story, like how they came to be. So we shot amidst the crowd. Like that was our first day, New Year's. So we had a total shooting days of 8 days. And we shot the oneer in the 97-minute oneer in 1 day. And some of the other days, the other parts of the film, because there's a montage and whatnot in the opening first act. So, we shot all in all 7.5 days. All over San Francisco, we had about 13 to 14 locations in the city, exteriors and interiors. We had the apartment, the speakeasy. We had a very busy intersection, Broadway and Columbus, in the heart of North Beach. And we shot at Point Reyes, which is north of San Francisco, about an hour and a half north. So we did that in like 7-8 days. And then post-production began in April of 2019, and we're still in it. We're still hammering through it. The edit is done. We locked picture. Color is very, very close. Music is very, very close. We're still doing some visual effects stuff, some sound, and then we're home free, hopefully.
Do you have an estimated time, or is it just open-ended at this point?
Well, we had some deadlines that we were hitting, but unfortunately a lot of events happened. We had so many freak accidents and stuff beyond our hands, like what's going on now and COVID.
Yeah.
Also, we were raising money.
Understandably.
Yeah. And we were also raising money through our fiscal sponsorship through Film Independent, and we're still trying to raise more money, and it's still there to help, finish film, because finishing films post-production is very expensive. You have so many variables, and it costs an arm and a leg to do everything the right way with DCPs and audio and mixing and all that jazz. So we're pushing it forward, and we're moving little by little in this current challenging climate. But I feel like we're a lot closer to the finish line than we were like a year ago. So, which is great. And
that is great.
And I'm not letting the pressure of the timeline affect the quality of the work, because the quality of the work is what matters to me, even if it takes longer, because I've put a lot of heart and soul into this, and so did a lot of people that worked on it. So I'd rather finish it right than rush through a deadline.
Which is great. Good
Yeah.
advice. Finish the work.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rush.
Don't rush.
What besides? I mean, I'm sure this is one of it. Filming one long continuous take. But what else was one of the hardest things about making this movie?
I mean, everything was hard. I mean, rehearsals was extremely hard. We would rehearse like about 6 to 8 hours a day, every day for 7 days a week. Working with the actors was very challenging for them, for sure, and building the chemistry between them. Logistically, shooting on an Arri Alexa with a Master Prime lens, and having Peggy being physically fit to carry the camera for that long, and avoiding shadows because we're shooting on a wide-angle lens at 18 millimeter.
I also saw in behind the scenes that she had like a contraption that she would wear.
An easy rig, yeah.
Easy rig, yeah.
Easy rig, yeah. And she did some other stuff in the montage with Steadicam, because she loves doing Steadicam, but the main oneer was on easy rig. We had to light the film with practical lighting because we were seeing the whole world. So we used Philip Hughes bulbs that we used a dimmer on our phones to control the dimming and the color temperature of each of the bulbs in the film. Locations, rain, potential getting robbed at 3:00 in the morning in the middle of San Francisco, because there's been notorious robberies of camera equipment and film equipment up there. Definitely permits was a challenge because the government was under lockdown and we couldn't get all the permits on time. Yeah, everything. I mean, finding a location from the apartment to the theater, where the theater starts and where we end in the apartment, to be close enough so the dialogue fits the time as they're walking, was very challenging. Like, everything about making it was definitely hard. I can't think of an easy part of it at all.
Well, that goes to my next question. What can you take away from making this film that you will carry with you for future projects?
I mean, so much. I think making this film has changed my life, because, I mean, I definitely don't have the inclination to make a long take film anymore. I think 97-minute is a good record. Especially in the U.S. film, it's the longest shot, 97 minutes, and 98 minutes almost. And I've learned so much with working with actors and dealing with their personal life and how it bleeds into the work itself and how it affects them, and how to be a good father figure on set while you have a lot of conflict and issues and stress going on, because you're putting out fires every day and you're sleeping like 3 hours every day. And putting that aside for people that need you, whether it be your camera department, your art department, your sound department, your actors. It taught me a lot about patience, resilience, believing in people, how making a film is very hard work. It's not something that everybody could do. It takes a lot of mind power to pull everything in effect, especially when you're doing a long take, because continuity and time and microphone cues and lavaliers and shotgun mics, and it's
everyone has to hit their spot. Everyone. Yeah, even the focus. Like, I mean, we're shooting like wide open most of the time, and you have to make focus clear, because it's hard to pull focus in a very dark setting when you're shooting wide open. So it definitely taught me so much about working with people on a very sort of new level, because none of us have ever done anything like this before. So it's a very new challenge for everybody. We came in to it prepared as much as possible, but there's a lot of things that came up that we didn't realize. So it was such a major learning experience at so many levels. Like, I would never take it back. It definitely burnt us out in various moments. People definitely were very challenged on a very personal level to pull through this, and waiting to see certain signs like days before shooting, like, oh my God, it's going to work. The scene finally works, as you keep training the muscle and pushing for it to feel right and to feel true. So yeah, I learned so much making this film. I mean, I think it was such a boot camp for me and everybody involved, that it makes it a lot easier to handle any set after that, because this is like the most challenging as it gets. Like, you have two actors, dialogue driven script, primarily limited locations, and you're shooting like a 97-minute take, or a 26-minute take, and resetting and timing out how to reset and how long we need to reset between each take, and the wardrobe and the hair and the props. And yeah, it was such an amazing learning experience. What surprised you also about making this film? Did anything like stuck out to you? Like, whether a good thing or a bad thing, something that happened that you were like, man, like, I did not expect that.
I mean, there's some things that were just so natural. Like, when we were shooting the montage, for example, like Brianna and Jordan were at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco, and then we noticed while we're shooting a guy sitting with an accordion, and he has like about 20 or 30 something pigeons around him. And I was just talking to them as we're rolling camera, like, you guys should go to him, like, just be by him, we'll shoot him. And then when Jordan came close to him, the pigeons landed on Jordan and landed on his hand, like, started eating, like, pecking at Jordan's hand. And Brianna was terrified, and then all these birds like flew next to her, and we're capturing that all on camera. That was amazing. That was a magical moment. There were so many little magical moments like that happened. I was surprised by how emotional I got while I was watching these people pour their heart out. Like, while I was watching live playback, I got very choked up. I got very teary-eyed. not to say that there was also not bad moments and hard moments, as far as like the rain popping, the camera getting wet, we're losing signal on audio while we're walking through the shot 20 minutes in. There's just been some very tough moments where you had to reset because the dress popped or whatever. Like,
oh, that's
like,
the
oh
worst.
my
I can't
God.
imagine.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, are we going to get this? Are we going to be able to get this? Because we don't have much time in this location. We can't come back again and we can bring all these extras again. And it was very stressful. Like, there's a lot that could have went wrong. And no matter how well you plan for it, it always bites you in the ass. At some point, it bites you in the ass. And you can't do anything about it. You just have to roll with it and make it work and adjust. And let's do it again. Let's just go do it again. So yeah, there's definitely very hard challenges. Like, we had also a scene in the film where both characters get very physical, and we had my friend Tim O'Hare, he's a stunt guy, who came in to help them choreograph it. And it looks very real, the way they sort of get physical, and choreographing that in a way that the actor doesn't hit their head on accident or, trip on the bed edge and fall, or, it was just like, there's so many like moments where at one take the actor was pulling back and then he tripped and he fell on his back. Jordan did. And this is how we wanted to do it. But in one of the takes, he did it without even realizing it, and he landed it so naturally. And that's the take we use in the film. It felt so real. But, he could miss a mark and hit his head on the edge of the window and, like, start bleeding. And then it's like, that's a wrap, But we were very cautious with it. And we had Tim, who's an amazing stunt guy, and he worked with them really well. So they were safe and learned how to choreograph it. But I was still stressed out. Every time I saw it, I was like, oh, my God, what if they hit their head? What if they fall? Like, holy shit. So yeah, a lot of things were crazy, We had a PA hide in the tub of the bathroom to take the lavalier off of our actress's body before she goes back into the bedroom. So we had like weird cues like that, and everything had to time up. And we're like, my ADs were like whispering in the walkie-talkie like really quietly as we're watching the monitor, and it was such a dance.
It's like a play. It's like it's live.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
If you can tell us without unless it's a big spoiler, then don't. But where did you get the title "This Is Your Song" from?
Oh, it's not a spoiler. So I my ex was an Elton John fan, and his song "Your Song" was a song that she would listen to and think of me. And I was thinking of many titles, and I was brainstorming with Lourdes, and I thought, this film or this story reflects who these people are, and it felt like "This Is Your Song" was the right tune for the emotion of this film, and also the connection of the real part of the story in relation to myself. So the title, instead of using "Your Song," it was like "This Is Your Song." And because it feels like the whole film plays like a tune, it's a play. It has a tune to it.
There's a theme. There's a mood.
Yeah.
Did you have the title prior to writing the film, or was it until after you finished? The title came to you.
Yeah, it came after for sure, because I thought of the title yesterday, and I then realized Danny Boyle was making a film, so I was like, yeah, okay, I'm not gonna. But I thought yesterday was a really good title that I really liked for the film, and me and Lourdes came up with like a bunch of different ones, and we kept brainstorming it. But I felt like a name of a song is something that I think is really cool, especially because when you remember people that you love or you have moments, it's always associated with music or songs, and it felt like the story is the song in a way. And I remember the Elton John connection with my ex, and it felt like the right title for the film.
Now, you talked about music was almost finished. Do you have a music composer, or do you have a music director who is working on the music as well?
So our main composer, his name is Brad Fisher. He's an amazing, talented musician. He's been working in the music industry for many, many years. He also plays independently, and he has an album called Fisher King that just is coming out that's really amazing. And Brad is a mutual friend of one of my filmmaker friends, Nico Somberger. And we met a couple times, and Brad saw the trailer, and he was talking to Nico about like, oh yeah, I'd love to be part of this somehow. I think it's really good. And I, at the time I was talking to a number of composers, and I talked about 11 composers, and based on what I wanted and I wanted to execute, it was very hard to execute on a limited budget. And also, the sound was just not familiar to most people. And, I decided to go with Brad because I decided to reach out to him and say, hey, you know, I'd love to see if you could sample like 2 or 3 tracks of these scenes and see what you come up with. Here's the vibe I'm going for. I gave him a playlist of the film that I used for the rehearsals that we played during the rehearsals, like some stuff by Ennio Morricone, some stuff by Max Richter, a variation of music pieces. And Brad came back with 3 temp tracks that were so spot on emotionally that it made sense to me that he would be the right composer, because most of the composers I looked into, their music sounded very generic to me. It sounded like something that I would hear in a sample library.
Like in iMovies or something.
Yeah. And I was looking for something a bit more orchestral, a bit more string heavy, and Brad never did music of that type for himself or a project, so this was very new territory for him, but he was so natural at it. And he did 10 tracks for the film, which are beautiful, beautiful tracks, which we will release separately than the film. And we also have a number of tracks that we are acquiring for some vinyl record scenes. There's a Dvorak track, there's a Mozart track, there's a jazz track that we're having in the background in the film. But Brad did the original music, and we have my friend Mars de la Mancha. He did a song called Pomegranate that we're using in the montage in the film. It's a beautiful acoustic guitar tune that is very, very full of love and harmony, and very personal to him. So yeah, that's our... and we have also Daniel. He's an amazing composer from Sweden. He composed a Chopin piece we're using in the ending of the film. That's a piano piece that we made into he made into a string piece, and it's the piano concerto in E minor, and it's a beautiful piece. It works really well with the ending of the film. So we have a lot of like beautiful, beautiful audio tracks for the film to heighten everything.
That's amazing. And I know since it's a lot of it's one continuous shot, it's like you always have to have like music playing, or is there moments of silence and quiet?
In the film, you mean?
Yeah.
No, there's a lot of silent moments. There's a lot of also dialogue moments only. The tracks are there primarily to heighten certain moments, but they're not carrying throughout the whole film. They're just there to convey transitions, heighten drama. But the primary music of the film is the actor's dialogue. That's the tune that we're really writing the whole film, because it has a certain flow to it. Yeah,
that's awesome. So, Hassan, if you were to start working on other projects, what projects would you like to tackle, or what projects speak to you when you decided to make them?
I mean, right now, I'm writing 3 features, 2 of which I'm polishing with my co-writer, Rowan Hand. And we've written 2 drafts of one, and we're writing the 6th draft of another one. One is a noir and one is a thriller. And there's a script that I'm writing by myself that is very reminiscent of 60s, 50s, 60s Italian cinema. Like the old Fellini type aesthetic. And a lot of the films that I like to tackle happen to do with identity, happen to do with nostalgia, happen to do with a person's place in the world, their voice in the world, being understood for something that's not who they are because they're having a hard time understanding themselves, no matter what their background. Because I've done films about mostly, I mean, there's women, autistic people, young African Angolan struggling to get married for a and put a dowry together. Like, most of my stories are about various types of people, but still they inherently reflect something about myself that connects to me, to them, and challenging questions about life and identity and love and goals and aspirations and facing one's psychology and trauma. Those are the type of films I'm really interested in talking about and exploring, because that's what makes us human. And stories, I feel, should be more character driven than anything, more so than genre, more so than conceptual, bigger science fiction, for example. I feel humans need to have that human touch. And This Is Your Song is really a human story. There's no protagonist, there's no antagonist. They're both two people that are beautiful in their souls, but they're also troubled individuals, and they're just trying to make the best out of it. And
they're human.
Yeah, they're human. It's not about who's right and who's wrong, who's more dominant and who's not. It's two young people trying to figure out their voice in the world and their place in the world and in their relationship and marriage and their careers and the city that they loved and aspired in, but yet doesn't feel like home anymore. And San Francisco is a huge, huge character in the film. And I think, honestly, it's like the most San Francisco of a film it gets in a lot of ways, because the archetypes wouldn't have worked in any other city or any other culture. It wouldn't translate right. They were written specifically to fit the prototypes of people you encounter in San Francisco. So yeah, it's a roller coaster, you know. It's a roller coaster. I mean, writing and creating something that you believe in, and This Is Your Song is a testament to that, because with every other script that I've written before, I was trying to put a big team together and find funding and Kickstarter, whatever. But This Is Your Song was the only film that I was starting to feel like, no, I'm just going to go shoot it. I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to go shoot it. Of course, it did not turn out simple, but like that was the intention. And I'm going to rally people behind who really believe in still the craft and want to make something unique, even though there's barely any money in it, or it's so small. And a lot of people that came on are art folks, our sound folks, our lighting folks, script and electric, our AD team, who was an amazing team, and I couldn't have done the film without them. They all rallied behind it, like, for practically nothing, because they just wanted to do something cool and something unique, and they were all about the craft. It took a special type of people to come together to make this type of film, because not everybody's up for such a challenge, really, or that sense of discomfort. So, yeah, shooting in the most expensive city is in itself a discomfort.
Exactly, and that says something about your writing and your work, since you had so many people supporting it, and backing you up. So,
yeah,
what's next for This Is Your Song? Any plans to, I know with the whole climate that's going on, do you plan on releasing it online? Do you plan on holding it till everything is open up again, where we can go ahead and watch it at a theater? What do you have planned?
Ideally, I mean, I don't want to rush into releasing it online, because it is, to do this film justice and given the one take element and how we intended in shooting it, I want this film to have its chance to get into some festival rounds, because every film that I do, I end up submitting to festival, and every project that I've done has gone into one festival or another throughout the years, and I have a good repertoire with that. And I feel like this is a film that should be seen in festivals and should be out in theaters, at least in major cities, for some days here and there. And that's the ideal case scenario. But once we're done with post-production, I think the timing is everything, because I don't feel it's fair for all these people that worked on it to just submit the film online without trying to get it out there to give it its best chance for potential distribution or festival attendees, or for people to talk about it, because it took literally a lot of blood and sweat and tears. It wasn't a figure of speech. Like, it was very literal. I mean, the actors literally have bruises on their bodies. Like there wasn't makeup to convey how realistic these two characters are. So I want to at least do that. The
serve
honor.
them justice.
Yeah,
and have it be seen the way it's meant to be seen. In
exactly,
theaters.
exactly. Because it's not just a film. It's not just another project on my notch of projects. It's extremely personal. It's extremely personal. Yeah.
Any last minute advice you'd like to give any listeners out there that may be listening who are in the process of starting their own filmmaking journey, or thinking about making a film at the moment? What would you like to let them know? To any advice you would give them?
First advice that I would give is nobody's going to help you make your film. You have to make your own film. Nobody's going to give you money. Nobody's going to, like, even if you get donations or whatever, you still have to put your own into it. You have to put everything you have into it. Money, time, energy. You have to make sure that every single piece of the puzzle lines up, from the color of, the dresses, to the bulbs, to the cameras, to the cards, to the DIT, to the sound equipment. You have to know every inside and out to know exactly how to control and manage a set and communicate with each department officially in their own lingo. So if you want to make a film, just go make it. Don't obsess about the $5 million budget or the $500,000 budget. Like, our film, is not nearly, like, the budget's not even close to that, but we still did it. And always challenge yourself. Like, don't try to take the easy way out. Try to challenge the way you tell stories and how you communicate stories. Don't be so orthodox and play it safe. I think a lot of people fail because their films get lost in a huge catalog because they try to play it safe, which is accessible to most people, but it doesn't make their work stand out. And I think filmmakers shouldn't just copy trends, but try to create their own unique voice and how they present a story in writing and editing and performances, because that's in a huge pool of filmmaking and content today. This is how you're going to stand out. Always be kind to your crew. Be the kindest to your actors. Always keep writing. Don't stop writing. The script could always be better till the last freaking minute. Accept change, roll with the punches. Don't be such a control freak. Realize you're working with a team, and this is not just about you, because it takes a team. It takes a whole village to make a film, not just a director or a writer. But yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. Also, on a lighter note, tell me some of your favorite films that you enjoy watching, especially the most recent films that you've seen that you've really, really enjoyed.
Yeah, some of the films that I really love. I love Stalker by Andrei Tarkovsky, Eyes Wide Shut in 2001 by Kubrick, Scenes from a Marriage by Bergman, some of Terrence Malick's work, Iñárritu's work. I'm a huge fan of variety of films, Mulholland Drive by David Lynch, Paris, Texas, Wim Wenders. My taste in films varies so broadly. French, Italian cinema, like 8.5 by Federico Fellini is like one of my all-time favorite films. And recently, some of the films that I really liked, I've seen Free Solo recently, which I know has been out for a while, but I haven't seen. There was pretty remarkable story, as I don't really watch documentaries often, but you're talking about athletes in top-notch shape who have huge back problems that are challenging the laws of physics to create such an amazing feeling climbing something without any harnesses. It's just like, it's mind-blowing. It's so incredibly ballsy. But yeah, I hope there's more good movies coming out this year, but it's just a lot of it is blending in together, and it's been a while since one saw a good movie, but I tend to lean more on the older films. Apocalypse Now, Once Upon a Time in America, Once Upon a Time in the West, big Sergio Leone fan. But yeah, it's always good for me to when I found myself in recent years, when I go to a theater, I mostly go to see an old film, not a new film. Because in LA, like, you have the New Beverly, which projects film. You have sometimes the ArcLight that plays old flicks on 70mm, or the Arrow and the Egyptian. So we're lucky enough that we have these independent art house or nonprofit places, organizations, to showcase amazing films like Lawrence of Arabia, or Kurosawa's Ran when it came out on 4K restoration, or just a marathon of Bergman films. Like, it's just so good that we have accessibility, because a lot of people never seen these films, and it just really transports you to another world, versus when you see a lot of films today, you feel very disconnected by the overly animated processing of these visuals that lack subtext or subtlety, and a lot of the context in which they're presented. So yeah, I mean, I go more to watching older films and revisit older films, or watch old films that I've never seen, versus watch more newer stuff. But I keep up to date as much as I can, you know.
You're a filmmaker. You're busy making the films. You don't
Exactly.
have time to watch them always.
I'll try when I can. Yeah, I make it a habit every week for sure. Like, I at least get 3 to 4 films in. So, yeah.
Awesome, Hassan. If people want to follow you on social media, or find out what's going on with This Is Your Song, what's the websites and social media handles?
Yes. So everyone, please check out the trailer, behind the scenes, synopsis, press kit. It's all at thisisYourSongFilm.com. You could also find a lot of information about the film at Instagram at TIYS Film. And we're also on Facebook, This Is Your Song Film, and on Twitter, TIYS Film. You can check out my other work at HassanSaid.com. I'm also on Instagram, Hassan_Said. You can find me on Twitter as well. But we'll always keep posting updates on the film, and new stills and color correction stills and visual effects stuff. So follow us on Facebook and Instagram for sure for the most up to date. You can find all the social media links at thisisYourSongFilm.com.
Thank you so much for being on the show, Hassan. And I'm so excited to when This Is Your Song is released.
Thank you.
And I can't wait to check it out.
Awesome, man.
Thank you. So that'll do it here for us here at Movie Menu Interviews. Make sure to check out our website, moviemenupodcast.com, for other interviews. If you are a filmmaker who want to be interviewed, please contact us either through Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or on our website, moviemenupodcast.com. And thank you so much, Hassan. Until next time.
Until next time.
Goodbye.
Cheers.
Cheers.